Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the Equally Well Symposium for 2022. I had to think about that for a moment because it's 2022, 2021, 2020. The last few years have been a bit of a blur. I would like to begin by offering an acknowledgement of country. So I respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region, the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, and to pay my respect to their elders, past and present, emerging, and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. I'd also like to acknowledge people who have a personal experience of mental illness and their families and carers and allies. The direct involvement of people with lived experience is an essential part of the work that we do. And to begin us off, I'd like to hand over to Mel, my co-chair, who's going to officially open the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, and welcome everyone. Great to see everyone back, and hope those of you who were there enjoyed yourself yesterday evening with a pleasant drink at the welcome function. Nice to welcome you in the room, and just to note, just for interest, yesterday online we had 700. So just to say to those online, hi, stay on. It's easy to forget they're there, right? 700 is pretty good. I think we're very impressed with that. So what we're doing is resonating, you'd like to think. It's my pleasure then to start this morning's proceedings off by introducing Christine Morgan, who I'm sure you're all aware is the CEO of the National Mental Health Commission and the National Suicide Prevention Advisor to the Prime Minister. And Christine's a passionate leader in mental health, having previously been the CEO of the Butterfly Foundation, previously involved with Wesley Mission, and before that with a corporate career, including at Telstra. Just a note before Christine speaks, I mentioned yesterday, just in case anyone had forgotten, we are in an election period, and Christine, of course, is subject to some of the same considerations of this period in her work. So not able to take questions today, which I understand and respect, but we're very grateful, Christine, you could join us. So please join me in welcoming Christine.
Thanks so much, Mel. And yes, I think this is going to take all of that former legal training of mine of what you can say when you can't say much. So bear with me. But look, I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands upon which we're meeting here, the Yugambeh people, and to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge the lived experience and pay my respects to all of those here today and joining us online who have a lived experience of mental illness, mental ill health or suicide. As we frequently remind ourselves at the National Mental Health Commission, that is the reason we do the work we do with hearing the voice and incorporating that incredibly valuable contribution from people with lived experience and living experience. So the Commission has as its load point, if you like, its North Star, a concept which you probably have heard us speak about before, but I think is incredibly relevant to the work of Equally Well, and that is the concept of a contributing life. We look at mental health and suicide prevention and all that we do towards the end goal of saying, how are we ensuring that we are supporting people to live a contributing life? How can we unlock or be there to support them unlock their full potential? And there's a critical role of mental health and wellbeing in that, but it also then, of course, extends out to the need for people to feel safe, the people to feel secure, and to feel as though we've got something to contribute. Now, our reality, and I'm speaking to the converted choir on this, I know, but our reality is that we live in an earth suit which incorporates not only our mental health and wellbeing, which is a key focus for us at the Commission, but of course our physical wellbeing. Now, you don't need me to repeat the statistics of those with mental ill health and I call them horrific statistics of that earlier mortality for too many people. We all agree that is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be brought together. And as I say, we are in the one earth suit. The two are inextricably linked. And finding the biological, the psychological, the sociological causal links and patterns that intertwine those two will help all of us unlock how we can ensure mental health and well-being and physical health and well-being, and to ensure that those who face the reality of mental illness have an equal life expectancy to those who don't. One bit that I would like to share with you, and this is a fact now, and thank you to the lovely person who acknowledged that last time I was here, I was on a connections tour, and once we are through this period of when we cannot engage in consultation with community, i.e. once a new government has been formed, we will be having another connections tour. But the first connections tour has resulted in the publication of what we call our Vision 2030, which is mental health, suicide prevention system working. And I think there's some key overlaps with the priorities, talking to Russell and Mel and others about the priorities with Equally Well. Vision 2030 has as a clear statement, mental health care is integrated with physical health care and social and human services. Fact. There's some core components around Vision 2030. Fundamentally, it's about being able to access the care we need in our local community settings, because that reflects the fact that we are human beings that live in community with each other, and we need to be able to access those services where we can then ensure our ongoing sustainable recovery. We talk about the concept of person-centred. In fact, we talk about the concept of person-led and bringing that all together. And we talk about the need for the essential components of care. Probably, I think, 3 core tenets of Vision 2030, which I would like to leave in your minds as you go into today and think of all things equally well. Coming back to that concept of local community settings, local community solutions, about finding it in our own place. That of necessity incorporates the really important concept of co-design, intertwining lived experience and living experience in how we are doing our work. It talks about having a need to establish a continuum of care, and a continuum of care, think not just mental health care, but bringing in those touch points with physical health care as well. It talks about the need to ensure that we are working across the spectrum of primary care entry points, community-based think there, community hubs, think home-based settings, think digital, but also integrating it across with our acute care and our tertiary. A second core premise is around the need for connection and integration. So integration and coordination, I think, are 2 different concepts. Coordination is when we make sure that if somebody needs to go through a particular journey, they're going step up to step up to step, and it actually doesn't matter who's providing it, it's still coordinated. The concept, and that's really important, and being able to navigate around that, and I think there's a key role for people with lived experience peer workers to really help in that. But there's another one which is about integration. And I think integration is that foundational enabler between mental health care, physical health care needs. Integration is saying it's not just a singular pathway to deal with my mental ill health or my presenting issue. Integration is how do all of those different components of mental health care, physical health care, human and social services intertwine together. How do we get that to actually work? And a key part of that is looking at the intersectionality of people and the fact that we're not one-dimensional. And the other core focus of Vision 2030, which I think is highly relevant here, is to shift the dial away from dealing with acute presentations. That's absolutely critical. But let's shift it up further upstream to prevention and early intervention. And that's prevention and early intervention, not just in terms of age, so intervening early, but it's intervention in episode of illness as well. And really is dealing with that concept of sustainable recovery, because to have sustainable recovery, you need tertiary intervention and to come in. So look forward to being here today to hear a great deal about Equally Well and those touch points that we have with everyone. And I invite you to think of that within that context of Vision 2030 that we will continue to be working on in the Commission. Thanks.
Thank you, Christine. And I think I'm allowed to say thank you to the Commission for their support for this issue, going right back to the consensus statement and throughout. And that's been a very important thing in propelling this movement. So thank you.